Good afternoon, and welcome to Practical English for Finance and Banking, Day 1 for Monday, March 16, 2020. This is a course in the College of Business Administration in the Global Finance and Banking Department. This is Practical English for Finance and Banking, and I will be your instructor for this course, and my name is John X. Hall. Obviously, we're starting this semester a couple of weeks late due to the novel coronavirus outbreak, the COVID-19 infection. Just real quick here, the novel coronavirus, the word novel in this case, do you know what that means? I'm sure you're familiar with novels in bookstores, but in this case the word novel actually means new. So this is a new coronavirus. There are several different types of coronaviruses. I'm sure you're familiar with SARS and MERS. Those were both coronaviruses. This is a new coronavirus, unknown to us until just a few months ago. Corona in this case refers to the shape of the virus. Corona means a crown, like a king or a queen would wear on their head. Sort of that round shape, that crown shape around it. Also, if you look at the sun during an eclipse, you'll see that ring around the sun with kind of the spikes on it. That is the sun's corona. Okay, so the novel coronavirus is the name of the virus. The disease that it causes is called COVID-19. Co from corona, VI from virus, D for disease. Coronavirus disease 19, because it was discovered in late 2019. So the virus that causes the disease is the novel coronavirus. The disease itself is COVID-19. And it's because of this virus, of course, that we are doing at least the first 2 weeks of this semester online. Obviously, that may change depending on the circumstances. We don't know that yet, but there's certainly a possibility that it could. So we are doing these courses online, as you can see. This was an unexpected change for all of us, for the university, for me, for your other professors, and of course for you. So it is not the perfect situation, and we're all trying to get used to this new technology, getting used to using new technology and new methods of teaching. So what I would ask is, as I do this, please bear with me. What does that mean? You're familiar with bear. People will say, like, I can't bear it, I can't take it, I can't stand it, I can't handle it anymore. If you bear something, you endure it. Bear with me means more like be patient. Bear with me, be patient with me, with your other professors, with the administration, as we try to adapt to this new situation. As you can see on the screen here, I've got PowerPoint slides on the side here. Obviously, I've got the video camera here. And what I've got down here where it says whiteboard, this is just a Microsoft Word document that I've got kind of squeezed into the corner there. Because normally in the classroom I would be writing on the whiteboard also. I can't really do that in this situation. Just for now, I'm just recording these from my office at the university. So I don't have a setup where I can use the whiteboard where you could see it. So I'm just typing things into this little Microsoft Word document here. So I've got these three items plus the actual program that is capturing everything that's on the screen and recording it so that we can upload it to YouTube and then post that link on Blackboard so that you guys can see it. So this is not a professionally produced video. This is something I'm just recording in the office on my own time. And so there will be mistakes. It will not be perfect. And so I apologize in advance for any problems there may be during this, or any mistakes or difficulties that I have in operating the technology here. So please bear with me. Okay. Since this is the first lecture of the semester, I need to start with some basic course introductory information. I use the word intro here. Intro is just a short form of the word introduction. So because this is the first day, I do need to spend some time today just introducing some basic information about the course and what to expect, and get started on things. You will need to have something to take notes, to write with while we're doing this. So make sure that you have a notebook or some paper and a pen or pencil to write with. If you need to, pause the video now and take a moment to get some materials to write with so that you can take notes and follow along with the presentation today. Okay, now that you've got something to write, let's get started. One of the main things, or a very basic thing that comes up with a new class and a new instructor, is how should you address your professor? Some of you may already know me, some of you may not. So let me spend a few moments talking about this. What does it mean to address somebody? I'm sure you're familiar with an email address. If you're sending an email to somebody, you have their name at some domain name or a website address. It directs you to a certain location on the World Wide Web. If you're sending a letter or a package to a person, you write their name and their street address on the envelope. It directs it to a certain location. Okay, this is a little different usage. Here, when we talk about addressing someone, we're talking about how do you speak to them. Basically, what words do you use? What language do you use to get their attention? What do you say to them? So address can mean speaking to somebody. I'm sure you've heard on campus sometimes, in the mornings or around lunchtime, they have some announcements over speakers around the campus. That is called a public address system. A public address system, or what we call simply a PA system. There's one on campus. You'll hear them in airports when they make announcements for boarding and where to go at the gate, or gate changes. You'll hear them on the streets of Korea when people in these bongo trucks are selling onions and potatoes. They have a PA system making announcements. Okay, at the university or schools, they have them to communicate from the office to all of the classrooms. This is a little different. When you address a professor, it's simply, what do you call them? What name do you use? Well, my name is John X. Hall. My first name is John. My middle initial is X. That's the first letter of my middle name. And my last name is Hall. Now be careful with my last name. The way it's written in Korean, it kind of looks like hole, H-O-L-E, like a hole in the ground, like an opening, okay? That's not how it's pronounced. It's hall. It's an ah sound, like a concert hall or city hall, okay? So just be careful with that. It's not John Hall, all right? Now, do you call me by my full name? Excuse me, John X. Hall. No, that sounds strange. Okay, so Dr. Hall sounds very nice, but I do not have a PhD. I do not have a doctoral degree. I do have an MBA, which is a Master of Business Administration. Right now, you guys are in an undergraduate program studying a bachelor's degree. Once you receive your bachelor's degree, then you will have graduated. If you go back to university, you would enter a graduate program, a program for people who have already graduated. The first step in that would be a master's program. If you graduate from that, then you might enter a doctorate program to become a doctor or PhD. Okay, so I've got a master's degree, so I'm not a doctor. Excuse me. Mr. Hall is my father. Now, obviously, I'm old enough to be a Mr., and that would be acceptable, but it still sounds very odd to me if somebody calls me Mr. Hall. Teacher. Now, I am a teacher, and in this course, I am your teacher. But my name is not Teacher! I have a question! Teacher! Teacher! Okay. That, in the U.S., sounds more like what a child in kindergarten or first grade might say to their teacher before they learn how to use people's names properly. It sounds sort of childish. Okay. So I am a teacher, but my name is not Teacher. Okay. John is my first name. People have been calling me John for my entire life, and I'm okay with that. That's my name. So if you want to use my first name, if you want to address me by John, that's okay with me. Now, in Korea, can you call a professor by their first name? No, you can't. That would be considered very rude. Okay. What about in Western society? Is it acceptable? Is it okay to do that? It depends on the person. Okay. Some professors prefer that you use their title, like Dr. something, okay, or that you call them professor. So it's really an individual decision. When I was doing my MBA, one of my professors, his name was Dr. David Lukauer. Now, he did not want us to call him Dr. Lukauer. That was too formal for him. He didn't really like that. So what he did, but he didn't want us to call him David either. That was a little too informal. So what he did is he had us call him Doc, which is short for doctor, and then instead of David, Dave. So Doc Dave was what he wanted to be called. Now, we had to write a lot of papers for Doc Dave, and he had a rule that said his policy was if we misspelled his last name. Now you can see here it's a little complicated. Luechauer. A little difficult to spell. He said if we misspelled his last name on our papers, we would fail the course. His idea was that if we didn't care enough, if we didn't pay enough attention to spell his name correctly, then we didn't deserve to pass the class. Now you guys have it easy. My last name is very simple. It's just H-A-L-L. Only 4 letters and pretty easy to spell. Please spell it correctly. Now, if you're not comfortable calling me by my first name, then you may use my title, Professor. That's acceptable. Or you could use my title plus my last name, Professor Hall, is also okay. You would not say Professor John. You would not use my first name with that. That would sound strange. Okay? So you can either call me John or Professor Hall. Whichever one you're most comfortable with. Okay? It really doesn't matter to me. I'm fine with any of those. Okay. Now, let's see. Take a look at the comic here. We have Jiwon, Ju-eun, Juwon, Ju-young, and Jun-young. Yeah. So let's talk about nicknames. Now, I've already told you what to call me. I need to know what to call you. And what I like to do in my classes is have you choose an English nickname to use in class. And the reason I do this, it's a very common practice when you are studying a language to use a nickname in the language that you're studying. Sort of helps put you in the right mindset to sort of function or think in that language a little bit. Okay, and this is very common. Obviously, my name is John, but when I was in high school, I took French. And in French class, we had to choose a French nickname. So I chose the name Jean. Oh, wait, that's French. Is that pronounced Jean in French? No. Jean would be like blue jeans. Okay? So that's not how it's pronounced. In French, that is pronounced Jean. Now, John and Jean are equivalent names in English and French, but they're not the same name. Okay? So, I was Jean in French class. In university, I studied Spanish. Again, we had to choose a nickname. So I chose the name Juan. Like a Juan subway station over here, right? Oh wait, but in Spanish, that's not how that's pronounced either. In Spanish, the J sounds like an H. So this is actually pronounced Juan. So again, Juan and John are similar. They're sort of equivalent names, but in different languages. Okay? Several years ago, I took a short Korean course. And again, we had to choose a nickname in Korean. So I chose the name Minsung. Now, obviously, that is not equivalent to John. It doesn't sound anything like John, like Jean and Juan do. Why did I choose Minsung? Well, because I wasn't really familiar with Korean names. I didn't know what would be a boy's name or a girl's name, what would be a good name or a bad name or a really odd name. So I borrowed my friend's name. So when you're choosing a nickname, you might be able to choose something that sounds similar to your Korean name. And if you want to do that, that's fine. A good example of that is somebody named Hannah. They might choose to use the name Hannah in English. It's very similar. It's a little different pronunciation, but similar. Or you might borrow somebody's name. Maybe a friend, somebody that you know. Perhaps a celebrity, an actor, a character in a movie, a character from a book, something like that. That's fine also. And in Korean, names have special meanings. When your parents choose your name, they often choose it because of the meaning that it has. In English, names also have meanings. So you might want to find a name that has a similar meaning to your Korean name. And there are websites you can Google for meanings of names. What do names mean? And so you could search there and try to find something perhaps that has a similar meaning to your real name. Okay? So that's up to you. I would like you to choose a nickname to use for this class, and I'd like you to have those by next Monday, March 23rd. Okay, that gives you a whole week to think of something, to look something up, to choose something, if you don't already have one. Okay? Excuse me. Now, attendance for this class is required. Okay, that is a university policy. Attendance is required. That also includes these online lectures. You do need to watch these during the scheduled class time, and there will be a simple assignment for you to complete during that class time so that you get that point, you get the credit for attendance. So make sure you do that attendance check every day so that you are counted as present for these courses. Now, we'll do that as long as we have the online classes, however long that goes. Once we go back to the face-to-face classes, the same rule applies. Attendance is required. For an excused absence, you do need official documentation. Okay. Club, other activities like that are optional. You're not required to do those. So those are generally not considered excused absences. For an unexcused absence, for each one of those, you will lose 1 point from your final grade. That is 1% off of your final grade. If you are more than 30 minutes late, that's the same as being absent. If you're less than 30 minutes late 3 times, that's 1 absence. So if you're late 20 minutes one day, and you're late 15 minutes, and then you're late 10 minutes, those 3 lates together count as 1 absence. And if you accumulate 8 absences, that is 25% of the course. If you have 8 absences, that's an automatic F, and that is a university policy. Okay, I cannot change that. All right? So make sure that you do check that attendance on Blackboard for these online classes so that you do get those points, so that I know that you have attended this online lecture. Grading for this course is going to be a little bit flexible depending on how long we end up doing the online courses and what kind of activities we're able to do. Point distribution basically will be attendance and participation will count 10% of your final grade. You will be doing a presentation later in the semester, sometime after midterms. It'll be towards the end of the semester. That will be worth 10% of your grade. You'll have some written homework assignments, worksheets, papers to turn in. That will be worth 10% of your final grade. We'll have some small quizzes, another 10%. Midterm and the final are worth the biggest percentage of your grade. The midterm and the final are each worth 30% of your grade. So those tests obviously are very important. Okay. If you need to contact me, to reach me, the best way to do that, especially right now, is by email. I will be on campus at different times than the regular class times. As we're doing these online courses, my schedule will be different because we have to record these in advance of the actual classes, so I won't necessarily be on campus at the regular class time, at least not this week probably. Okay. My email address is John X Hall. How do you say this? Notice it looks like a little A with a little circle around it. That stands for at, like the word at, A-T. So, John X Hall at gmail.com. Okay, at gmail.com. If it's at the end of this dot, if it's at the end of a sentence, it's a period. When we use it in numbers, it's a point. But when we're using it in a web address or an email address, it's just said as gmail.com. johnxhall@gmail.com. And that is available 24 hours. You can email at any time. Generally, I'm more of a night owl. I tend to stay up late more and then sleep later in the mornings, unless I have class, of course. Depending on the day and what I'm doing and what your question is, I may be able to answer you very quickly, even if it's 2 in the morning. Other times, if you email me at 7 a.m., I probably won't see it for a while. Okay, if I am up, that probably means I'm getting ready to come to the university, and I may not have time to deal with your email immediately. But I will get back to you. Sometimes I can answer right away. Other times, if I need to get online, if I need to access the computer, If I need to get some information from the administration, it may take me a little bit longer to get back to you, but I will reply to you as quickly as I can. Okay? But obviously, email is free, and you're free to email me at any time. Some guidelines here for using email. Some things to keep in mind. If you do email me, make sure that you have a good international email address. If you're using something like HonMail or Dom or Naver, I will receive your email, but when I reply to you, some of those systems will block anything that is not Korean. So even though I get your email and I reply to you, you may not see my answer if HonMail decides to block my Gmail address. Okay, so I would recommend Gmail here. It's probably the most popular, most common. You could use something like Hotmail or Yahoo or something, but Gmail is sort of the standard right now that most people use. Make sure that you have a professional sounding email address. Your name is always a good choice. Avoid things like cute names, like cute girl, genius boy, Superman, things like that. That when you're in middle school and high school, they're kind of fun. But now that you're adults, you're in university, you're going to be entering the job market, you want a professional sounding email address. Okay? Now, a couple of things to be careful with that. If you're using something with the number 1 or a lowercase l, a small l, or a capital I, you'll notice in this font, those 3 letters or numbers look exactly the same. And that's a problem. It could be very difficult for people to read your email address. So you want to be really, really careful with that. Make sure you choose things that are easily recognizable. Now, if I change to a different font here, for example, if I use this Comic Sans, then you can clearly see, oh, that's a 1, an L, and a capital I. But other people may not see it in the same font that you are using if their system doesn't have that font or doesn't display it properly. Email addresses should be very easy to read. Passwords should be complicated. Email addresses should be extremely simple. Also, be careful if you're using things like a 0 or a capital O. Again, those look almost identical. In this case, the 0 is a little narrower and the O is a little more rounded. Okay, but you cannot expect a user, another person, to recognize that. And some fonts, they may look exactly the same. So be very careful with that, that you don't mix letters and numbers that could be easily confused like that. Okay, and those are some good examples of that. When you email me, in the subject line, make sure you include your name, your English nickname, your ID number. I will give you a simple ID number for this course. Okay, you don't need to send your full university ID number with every email, and the class that you're in. Okay, so for example, if you're sending me an email in this class, or if I was sending an email, in the subject line, I would put my name, and my ID might be something like 312. It'll be a short number, and then Practical English for Finance and Banking. That's a very long course title. So you can just write Pefb. Practical English for Finance and Banking. Okay? That way I can easily see which class you're in, what you're writing about, so that I can answer you more accurately and faster. Okay? When you email me, please do not send HWP files. this is an English language course. HWP is great for Hangul. That's what it's designed for. It is not designed for English. It doesn't format or display English well. Also, on my computers and my phone, I have a very difficult time viewing HWP files. So please stick to Microsoft format, Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, something that I can easily open. Now, if you do not have Microsoft Office, Microsoft has a program where students can receive a free version of Microsoft Office. All you need to use is your university email address to verify that you are a student. So you can search that on the internet to find out, to get the information on that. If you're unable to find it and you're interested in that, please ask me and I can find a link for you to access that. And also, if you are using an older version of Windows, if you're still using Windows 7 or Vista or something, for students, Microsoft offers a free upgrade to Windows 10. And these are genuine Microsoft products. Okay, these are full versions, Windows 10 and Microsoft Office, which includes Word and PowerPoint and Excel and the other package parts, the other programs that are part of that package. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you do not have that software, you can get it absolutely free from Microsoft. Okay, which is a great deal. Now, office hours. Again, the first couple of weeks here, while we're online, this will vary. The best way to reach me right now is through email. Okay, but my office hours, once we start, my office is in room 6-107. That, of course, is building 6. 107 is on the first floor. The second floor, that's where the admin office is. Okay, College of Business Administration. I'm on the first floor, which is more like the basement, actually. Okay, 107. If you take the elevator down to the first floor, when you get off the elevator, you'll see that copy center, copy and printing center to the left. My office is down the hallway to the right. Okay, I do share the office with another professor, so sometimes he may be here when I'm not. You can always leave a note, or if neither one of us is here, you could slip something under the door. Okay, if you need to leave an assignment or something. Normally, once the semester starts, once we're with face-to-face classes, Monday I will set my office hours from 6 to 8 p.m. I do have a very full day of classes, so there's really no time earlier in the day for me to do that, unless it's just something real quick between classes during that little 15-minute break. Okay. On Thursday, I'll be here from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. by appointment. I'll normally be on campus by that time, but sometimes if I need to run an errand or something like that, just if you need to come, if you want to make sure that I'm going to be in the office, please make an appointment to make sure that I'm here. And again, from 6 to 8 p.m. This class will finish at 5:45 p.m., so I should be back to the office right after that. So I just put 6 just to give a short little break in there. And I'm almost always on campus until at least 8 p.m. Okay? If those times don't work, contact me, email me, and we'll figure something out. I may be on campus other days sometimes, or we can do something on Kakao or something like that if you need to contact me. And of course, again, email is always available. Okay, now normally on this first day of class, I like to do more of a icebreaker kind of thing, some hands-on activity, and what I like to do is just give everybody a bunch of money on the first day of class, because this is practical English for finance and banking. So what I like to do is just give you all a stack of cash to play with for a little while. Unfortunately, we're doing this online right now, so I can't do that. But I would love to give one of you, can you see this? It's hard to line this up with the webcam, but there we go. $100 billion. Can you read this number at the bottom here? 100 billion? Is that easy for you to read? Large numbers are difficult. And that's one of the things I like to play with in this class is money. Because if you're going to be working in business, in finance, in banking, any kind of company, you need to be able to count money. And especially in Korea, the currency uses pretty large numbers. It's very common to have, 10,000 of something is very small. Hundreds of thousands, millions of won is very, very common. So it's very important that you're able to quickly and accurately use large numbers. And this is a very common problem that I've seen at stores, at restaurants, and unfortunately even at banks, where they are unable to accurately read and pronounce numbers in English because the counting systems are so different. In Korea, you do things in multiples of 10,000, which makes it very confusing when you go to English. Okay, so we're going to be working on that, and even though I can't give you the actual stacks of money right now, we will use that later. But even though I can't give you that in person right now, I do want to go ahead and get started on working with those large numbers. So there's a handout here, or a one sheet of paper, is how to write numbers with words. Okay, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit, and you can read this here, and you can pause this, stop the video, and take your time to read it, and read it very carefully, and take notes on it if you need to. I will put the file for this also on Blackboard, so you can print it if you want to. And I would suggest that if we were in class, I would actually give it to you. But I can't do that this week. But pay very careful attention to the spelling and the spacing and the punctuation involved in these numbers. Okay, so we're already at about 38 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and just let you read this on your own today, and then Thursday I'll go through it in more detail with you. Okay, kind of review it with you. So let me go to, this is the first four, or most of the first four. Let me go to the bottom half of this page. Okay, there's all of number 4 and down through number 8 here. Okay, again, I'll let this sit here for just a moment, and you can read it. Obviously, pause the video, stop it so you can read it more carefully. Okay, and I will stop there today, and I will talk to you again on Thursday afternoon. Have a good week.